He failed every test. She mopped every floor. He had millions in a trust fund. She lost everything she'd ever worked for. Nobody thought they'd even speak to each other. But when a spoiled billionaire son finally hit rock bottom, the woman everyone ignored said something that would change his life forever. You leave your pride at the door. You start from zero. 3 months later, his speech about her went viral. The school had just fired her. His father was watching. And what he said next, nobody in that room was ready for. This is the true story of how a janitor saved a life. Not with money, not with connections, but with something more powerful than both. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll never look at the people around you the same way again. Let me tell you about a kid who had it all, and nothing at the same time. His name was Tyler Bennett, 17 years old, living in Boston, son of one of the richest men in New England. His father, Richard Bennett, owned half the tech companies in Massachusetts. Their family name was on buildings on charity galas, in newspapers. Tyler grew up with everything money could buy. Private planes, designer everything, birthday parties with actual celebrities showing up. But here's the thing about having everything. Sometimes it means you have nothing that matters. Tyler went to Westfield Academy, one of those schools where the hallways have marble floors and the cafeteria looks like a 5-star restaurant. He didn't earn his way in. His last name did. No entrance exam, no interview. Just a check with a lot of zeros and a handshake between powerful men. And Tyler? He treated that school like a joke. He failed every test, mocked every teacher, wore clothes that cost more than some people's rent, and made sure everyone knew it. Teachers passed him anyway, not because he deserved it, but because they were scared. Scared of losing the Bennett donations. Scared of what his father might do. The other students either envied him or hated him. Most did both. One day, the school counselor called him in. She sat across from him, looking tired, holding a folder full of failing grades. "Tyler, we need to talk about your future." He leaned back in his chair, smirking. "My future? I could buy this entire school if I wanted to. What's a grade going to do that my last name can't?" That quote spread through the school like wildfire, but nobody confronted him. Nobody dared. At home, things were worse. His father, Richard, was the kind of man who built an empire from nothing and had no patience for weakness, especially from his own son. "You're an embarrassment," Richard said one night after another call from the school. His voice was cold, distant. "If you work for me, you'd be fired on the spot." Tyler rolled his eyes. "Good thing I'm your son, not your employee. The world doesn't care whose son you are. Either you become someone, or you'll just be another rich kid with a last name and no backbone. And I won't carry you forever." The silence that followed felt like ice. Tyler showed up to school the next day in his BMW, a birthday gift, parking in the faculty lot like he owned the place. He walked through the halls like they were a runway. Some students stared with envy, others with pure disgust. But one person looked at him differently. She was older, maybe in her 50s, mopping the floor near the side entrance. Black woman, dignified posture, quiet eyes that seemed to see right through people. Her uniform was simple, a bit worn, but there was something about her presence that didn't match the mop in her hands. Tyler didn't notice her. To him, she was invisible, just a janitor. Background noise in his life of luxury. But that was about to change. More tests came, more failing grades. And then his father did something Tyler never expected. He cut him off completely. No more credit cards. No more car. Tyler had to take the school bus like everyone else. It was humiliating. One bitter morning, walking through the hallway with his head down, he passed the janitor. She was cleaning, but she was whispering something under her breath. Tyler caught just a few words. "The only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing." He stopped, turned around. "What did you just say?" She looked up, calm, unafraid. "Nothing you're ready to understand yet, son." He laughed, but it sounded hollow. That's Socrates. Why is a janitor quoting ancient philosophers? She smiled slightly, picked up her bucket, and walked away without another word. But Tyler couldn't stop thinking about it. About her. The next week, he got his literature test back. He opened it slowly, expecting the usual mercy grade. 18 out of 100. Scrawled at the bottom. Did you even read the passage? More tests followed. Math, 24%. History, 31%. Biology, 0, an actual 0. It wasn't funny anymore. The counselor called him in again. This time her voice had no gentleness left. Tyler, you're at the bottom of the entire senior class. I'm not talking about behavior anymore. I'm talking about actual failure, academic failure. I'll hire a tutor, he mumbled. You already had 3. They all quit. That hit different. Later that day, trying to avoid being seen, he slipped out through the back entrance. And there she was again, the janitor, cleaning up a spill near the cafeteria. She saw him, smiled politely. He stopped walking. You said something about Socrates last time. She stood up slowly, wiped her hands on her apron. And you remembered it. Yeah, it stuck with me. He paused. Kind of weird for a janitor to be quoting philosophy. Her eyes didn't waver. It's weirder when a boy with the whole world at his feet can't pass a simple reading test. That stung, but it was true. You used to be a teacher, didn't you? He asked quietly. I was, before life knocked me down a few pegs. Tyler took a breath. Then teach me, please. Help me. She studied him for a long moment. Then she said, one condition. You leave your name and your pride at the door. You start from 0, from the floor. Fine, he whispered. I can't keep failing like this. She nodded. Tomorrow morning, before sunrise, meet me here. And just like that, everything changed. The next morning, Tyler showed up before the sun rose. The school was wrapped in fog and silence, almost peaceful. He walked through the back entrance, gripping the notebook she'd given him the day before. He found her in the east wing, polishing floors with slow, careful movements. She had earbuds in, humming something soft. Gospel, maybe? Tyler stood there awkwardly until she noticed him. You came, she said, removing an earbud. You said you'd teach me. I did, but I also said it wouldn't be easy. I don't care. I need this. She put down her mop and looked at him straight on. Then we begin. But first, you should know my name. It's Grace. Grace Morrison. Tyler nodded. How long have you been working here? 3 years. Before that, other schools. And before that, she paused, looking him dead in the eye. I was a college professor. English literature and philosophy. His eyes went wide. Wait, what? Why would you leave that for this? Grace folded her cleaning cloth slowly. Sometimes life takes everything you thought was yours and leaves you with nothing but what you know. And I still know how to teach. Tyler felt something shift in his chest. For the first time in his life, he was looking at someone truly strong. Not powerful. Strong. So where do I start? He asked. I tried reading some stuff last night, but I don't even know how to begin. That's the first real truth, Grace said. Pride makes you think you already know everything. But when you finally admit you don't, that's when real learning starts. I can read, Tyler said, a bit defensive. I didn't say you couldn't, but I'm not talking about reading words on a page. I'm talking about understanding what's between the lines, what the words are really trying to say. She pulled out a worn notebook from her bag. Every morning before class, you meet me here, 1 hour. And every evening after I finish my shift, you sit down and write. What you learned, what you felt, what you understood. No grades. Just honesty. Tyler opened the notebook, blank pages staring back at him. What if I fail again? He asked quietly. Grace smiled. Then you're finally doing it right. Days turned into weeks. A rhythm formed, almost sacred. Tyler showed up early every single morning. Grace didn't lecture him. She asked questions. Deep questions. What did this sentence make you feel? Why do you think this character stayed silent when he could have spoken? Can you tell me what courage sounds like? Tyler began to see differently. Books stopped feeling like homework. Sentences started pulling at something in his gut. He was learning how to feel what words were trying to say. His notebook filled up, not with answers, but with thoughts, reflections, fears. He wrote about his father, about pressure, about how angry he was at feeling so empty all the time. Grace read every single word. One night, while he was writing in the cafeteria, two boys walked by laughing. One of them, Derek, a star athlete, nudged his friend. Look at little Bennett now, writing love letters to the janitor. Tyler's jaw clenched. He was ready to explode. But Grace gently placed a hand on his shoulder. You don't measure depth with a shallow ruler, she whispered. That one line hit deeper than any insult ever could. That night, Tyler got a message from his father. They updated your academic record. One last warning. Turn things around or you're done. No trust fund. No apartment. Nothing. Tyler stared at the screen. He didn't reply. But for the first time, he didn't feel afraid. He felt ready. Weeks went by. His grades improved. Not perfect, but steady. Teachers started noticing a change. The arrogant kid who used to mock everyone was now asking questions. Real questions. He was participating. Thinking. One day in history class, he raised his hand. Can we talk about how this textbook basically skips over slavery like it was just a footnote? The room went silent. Even the teacher hesitated. Where'd you hear that? The teacher asked carefully. From James Baldwin and Toni Morrison, and from a woman who knows how to actually teach. Nobody knew what to say, but nobody forgot it either. Tyler started seeing people, really seeing them. The quiet girl who always sat alone. The kid who worked 2 jobs and still showed up on time. The teacher who gave brilliant lectures but never got respect. And he brought them to Grace. One by one, students started showing up, at first just 2 or 3, then 5, then 10. The old abandoned library became their secret classroom. They read, they wrote, they debated, they cried. It was beautiful, but it was also dangerous. One afternoon, Grace was called into the office. The assistant principal sat across from her, hands folded, corporate smile in place. Miss Morrison, we received some concerns. Parents are asking why their children are spending time with janitorial staff after hours. I'm teaching, Grace said simply. You're not a certified instructor here. It's not in your job description. Grace stared at her. Neither is saving a kid's life. But I did it anyway. The assistant principal didn't respond. But Grace knew. She knew what was coming. Tyler heard about it the next day. He was furious. They told you to stop? That's insane. You're helping people. I know, Grace said calmly. But that's what systems do. They don't attack what's broken. They attack what's working. If it wasn't meant to work their way. Tyler clenched his fists. I'm going to tell my dad. I'll go to the board. I'll go public. Not yet, Grace said firmly. Your voice needs to be strong enough to stand on its own first. Not your father's name. Yours. He understood. The revolution had already begun. Winter came to Boston, cold and quiet. But inside Tyler, something was burning bright. Then came the announcement, posted in bold letters at the school entrance. Senior speech contest. Topic: what it means to win in life. Open to families and community. Tyler stared at that poster, and then he went home and wrote. All night, not for a grade, not for credit, for her. But the morning of the contest, he found out Grace had been fired. Early, quietly. They said budget cuts. Everyone knew better. Tyler sat alone in the empty cafeteria, notebook open, hands shaking, pages filled with her corrections, her questions, her wisdom. Learning is transformation, she'd written. Pride is a trap. You don't need permission to become someone new. He closed that notebook and opened a fresh one. Wrote at the top, not for applause, for truth. The night of the contest, the auditorium was packed. Parents in expensive coats. Students in press suits. College scouts in the back with clipboards. Tyler stood backstage in a plain navy shirt and jeans. No flashy clothes. No last name pinned to his chest. Just him and his story. His name was called. He stepped onto the stage. The room fell silent. He looked across the crowd and began. My name is Tyler Bennett. Some of you know me as the kid who wasted every opportunity, who didn't care, who failed. They say I had everything. He paused. But I didn't have the one thing that mattered. Someone who believed in me until she showed up. You could hear a pin drop. She wasn't my teacher. Not officially. She wasn't paid to help me. She had no office, no authority. Just a mop and a heart big enough to see through all my anger. He looked around the room. She taught me how to read between the lines. In books and in life. She taught me how to think, how to listen, how to feel. She didn't just clean the floors of the school. She cleared the fog in my head. People were leaning forward now, but she was fired, silenced, because systems don't like it when someone from the bottom starts making a real difference. His voice grew stronger. So today I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to honor her. He held up his notebook. She told me that learning is transformation, that real winning isn't about being rich or powerful. It's about becoming someone worth remembering. His voice softened, became raw. She might not be in this room right now, but she's in every word I'm saying. He took a breath. So what does it mean to win in life? It means waking up, letting go of your name, finding your truth, and using it to lift others up. Silence. Then one person started clapping. Then another. Then the entire room exploded into applause. A standing ovation. Tears everywhere. Even faculty members were crying. And from the very back of the auditorium, a woman with silver-streaked hair and quiet eyes wiped a tear and smiled. Grace. She had come back just to see him shine. The video of that speech went viral. First through students, then alumni, then the press. Billionaire's son credits school janitor for saving his life. Grace was offered speaking engagements, then teaching positions. Doors that had been slammed shut began to open again, not because of her resume, because of truth that couldn't be ignored. Tyler passed every class, not with pity, with purpose. He declined Ivy League offers and chose a small college focused on education and social justice. When reporters asked why, he said simply, "Because I want to teach the way she taught me and build the kind of place where no one has to beg to be seen." Months later, Tyler knocked on the door of a modest house outside the city. Holding an envelope, Grace opened the door, surprised. "You didn't have to come all the way out here." "I did," Tyler said, handing her the envelope. Inside was his diploma, his college acceptance letter, and something else, a handwritten proposal. "I want to start something," he said. "A learning center, a place where people can learn the way I did, with honesty, with depth, without shame. I want to call it the Morrison Institute." Grace read the letter, tears filling her eyes. "Why me?" "Because everything I am now started with you." She looked up. "Only if we do it together." "Always," Tyler said. Months later, the Morrison Institute opened in a repurposed community center. Classes, mentorship, late-night writing circles. Kids who've been written off got a second chance. Grace taught again, with freedom, with joy, and the city took notice. As for Richard, Tyler's father, he came quietly to the opening, stood in the back, watched his son speak about justice, healing, humility. After the event, they met outside. "I didn't expect to cry," Richard admitted. "I didn't expect to forgive you," Tyler said. They hugged, not as father and heir, but as two men trying. Years passed. The Institute grew. One evening, Tyler took a stage again, this time for a National Education Award. He held the microphone and said, "They told me I failed at everything, until I learned one thing that changed my life." He paused, looking across the crowd. Greatness doesn't come from being seen. It comes from seeing others. And sometimes the person who teaches you the most isn't wearing a suit. They're holding a mop, quoting philosophers while nobody's listening. His voice cracked with emotion. "Her name is Grace Morrison, and she didn't just save my grades. She saved my soul." The room erupted in applause, because some stories aren't just about learning. They're about being reborn. If you believe in stories that inspire, that challenge us, that give voice to those who go unseen, hit that subscribe button. More powerful journeys are coming. and we'd love to have you with us.